Ladies and gentlemen, back in the building, the ZoWhat show, live from Hollywood Boulevard in California, Southern California. The Hollywood Boulevard, world famous. I'm in the building, and let me tell you, we're going to do something real different, real special today. I want everybody to get in here and hit that like button, hit that share button. You under dig? Because if you're familiar with the ZoWhat show, you know we're all about empowerment. We're all about cooperation, collaboration, unifying, working together, you know. And today is a special treat. Somebody hit me to this young brother, so I had to go in the vault.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we up here in Hollywood. Let's do it.
What's so weird about Hollywood, man?
Man, come on. The biggest zoo in the world.
Why you hating?
Hating? Let's do this.
Listen, we have a special guest. We about to talk some real game right now. So I suggest everybody hit the like button, hit the share button. Share this video. Get it, what I like to say, trending on YouTube. It's important that we get it trending on YouTube because this is a big time conversation that's about to go down at the new Dash Studios. This young man was brought to my attention by DJ Ski and the good people up here at Dash. The brother was born and raised in D.C., Washington, D.C., the DMV, during the crack era. His name is Halim A. Flowers.
Give it up, give it up.
Yeah. The brother was sentenced to 22 years
No.
behind bars, man.
It was 2 life sentences. Yeah.
But I'm just reading what's here, Bobby. Can I read?
Not if you ain't correcting yourself.
Bobby, he gonna correct us all.
He just did.
So let me finish reading. This is Bobby. This my uncle. You see, when you're dealing with, your uncles.
It's a little different between 22 years and 2 life sentences.
So can I finish?
No.
You don't want me to finish?
No.
Okay, here. This is what I'm going to do while I'll cut you off, Bobby. Bobby, I'll cut you off. You understand? Look at that. Say something. You see how that works? Keep cutting up, Bobby. Let me read this. The story going to unfold as we go on, damn it. Bobby always fucking up the suspense and things. Anyway, born and raised in Washington, D.C. during the crack era, Halim A. Flowers was sentenced to 2 life sentences at the age of 16. He served 22 years behind bars in some of the worst prisons in the country before being released at the age of 38. After transcending the confines of prison as a free man, he uses his words to impact lives globally through his writings and motivational speaking. So I'm all in on this one. Because we were talking about it earlier. How do you become an outlier after overcoming 2 life sentences, after serving 22 years? How do you become the one that succeeds? How do you become the one that perseveres? How do you become, look at Jeff. Look, we can see Jeff showing, look at Jeff. He's the worst co-host ever. He's the worst. This is so beautiful sitting here at Dash Radio right now, being able to watch people roll up late. He look late, don't he? But no, man, how do you become the outlier? How do you become the one that transcends, that perseveres, that has this resolve to say, nah, man, I'm going to use this, to become better. I'm going to use this to become wiser. I'm going to use this to reach my goals. How do you do that?
You definitely have to study the greats.
Talk to me.
You have to study the outliers. And for me, my paradigm would shift when I read a book called Solidarity Brothers by George Jackson, who was similar situated like myself, a teenager getting an indeterminate life sentence. And
wait, stop. just what it's called is scary. An indeterminate life sentence.
Right.
Can you define what that means for a lot of people who may not know? Because I've never heard that term before.
The indeterminate life sentence is to me more psychologically damning than a life without parole sentence, because an indeterminate life sentence could be 40 to life, 20 to life. George Jackson case, 1 to life. But what they do is, instead of just giving you life without parole and you beginning with no hope, you're given a life sentence on the back, and you may see the parole board in 20, 30, 40 years. But what they were doing in DC and in California, no matter how much programming you did, no matter how much you stayed out of trouble, once you did 30, 40 years and you seen the parole board, if you did too good, then they say you manipulated the system. So we'll set you back for 5 more years. Then you do 5 more years and you come back and they say, well, due to the violent nature of your crime, we think that you should do 10 more years. So they just keep denying your parole until you die.
Wow. And then how do you come back from it? How do you keep your morale up?
For me, like I said, it's studying the greats. One thing that we don't do as African descent people in America, we don't honor our ancestors. And when you look at other cultures, you see statues of Abraham Lincoln. They honor their ancestors so much that they even have statues of Confederate soldiers who started an armed rebellion against the Union.
Against their own country.
But they honor their ancestors.
Yes.
And we don't honor our ancestors. So therefore, all of the strength, all of the genius, all of the resolve that we have in our DNA from our ancestors, from those who built pyramids, from those who built plantations. This is all creative genius. And we don't honor our ancestors. So by us not honoring our ancestors, they don't honor us, and they don't allow us to activate that DNA.
Wow.
Within us.
Bobby?
In other words, it's winter in America. Ain't nobody fighting because nobody knows what to save. This brother sitting next to me is giving me chills because I found out a few minutes before you got here that you have an understanding of who the late Gil Scott-Heron was.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And to see you sitting here, because I had the pleasure of doing a show here in Los Angeles about 20 years ago with Gil. And he was just so prophetic. And all the songs that he made, The Bottle, Johannesburg, all of that is coming back to life through you sitting next to me right now. And it's just an honor, man, to meet you, brother.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the ZoWhat Show on VOR Radio, on Dash Radio. If you've never heard of VOR Radio, please understand a little bit about that. Dash Radio gave me my own channel, and I call it VOR Radio. VOR stands for Voice of Reason Radio. And we love to have this type of content on Voice of Reason Radio. Why? Because it serves to inspire the youth to be something different, to see, as Bobby would say, models of possibilities. When you get a chance, please download the Dash Radio app. And once you download the Dash Radio app, please go find and favorite VOR Radio. It's going to sound like this.
Tune in and turn your life up on VOR Radio. Bill Williams is the VOR Voice of Reason on Dash Radio.
Don't play yourself. Go download the app. Get involved. This is the type of content we want on this channel. We want to touch people. We want to heal people. And this interview with Halim Flowers, man, A. Flowers, is the beginning of 2020 and us doing that. So let's go back to it. Let's start from the beginning, bro. I have to ask the question. What exactly did you do to get that?
I was they say that I was with someone who murdered someone. I was never charged with being a shooter. It was someone robbed a drug house, a crack house. And
you're 16 at the time.
I'm 16. And they said that I entered the apartment with the person who robbed and killed someone. So under felony murder law, which we know which was recently changed in the state of California, it's a clause known as the accomplice liability doctrine. So if you commit a felony, say a burglary or a robbery, and a person with you kills someone, you are supposed to have the foreseeability that it could lead to a murder. So therefore, you are equally, or in my case, even more responsible for the murder than the shooter. So in my case, I was never charged with shooting anyone. The person who was indicted and charged as a shooter had the charges dismissed against him.
And they pinned it all on you.
As an accomplice.
Wow. And they gave you
40 years of life and 20 years of life under the accomplice liability doctrine. So for me, one thing that I realized about the criminal injustice system, and I wrote my judge a letter about this, you offered me a plea agreement that if I cooperated with the government to prosecute the shooter, that you would release me in from 12 to 18 months. But being as though that I exercised my constitutional right to go to trial, I am a citizen. It's not my responsibility to cooperate with law enforcement in the prosecution to prosecute anyone and go to trial, and you convict me as a child and you give me a life sentence. But if I would have cooperated with the government to bring more people into the prison system, you would have let me back into the community whether I was a menace to society or not. So the letter that I addressed this to my judge was rehabilitation or cooperation. Because our prison system is set up to put people in prison who are deemed to be menaces to society. But if these individuals kill 5, 10, 15, 20 people, sell them out, pounds of weed and kilos of crack cocaine, as long as they are willing to cooperate with the government to bring other community members into prison, they will allow these individuals to go right back to society and oftentimes facilitate them in committing crimes to bring more people back.
So what you're basically telling me is it doesn't matter how heinous the criminal may be.
Right.
If you're not the criminal they want and they feel like you're obstructing them from getting that criminal, they'll put it all on you.
Exactly.
God damn. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Halim A. Flowers on the ZoWhat show. Peep game, he's an artist. He served two life sentences, or was sentenced 2 life sentences at the age of 16. He served 22 years behind bars. He went in at 16, got out at 38. Now he's an artist. He's written all type of books, and I'm looking at his I want to show y'all this, but I want to read it. Well, I can't read it and show it to you, but he's written a bunch of books, man. And what I want to do is use this brother, and I'm trying to reframe the topic because Jeff just walked in. I want to use this brother as the blueprint, how to become an outlier after serving, after dealing with, because listen, you don't even have to go to jail to suffer in America as black people, as black men. When we look at the numbers, and everybody get mad, Tone Talks, and, Tone Talks broke them numbers down. Tone Talks and Darity, they broke them numbers down. The wealth gap is real. But not only is there a wealth gap, there's also an education gap. There's also a technology gap. There's also a real estate gap. So, and this is on the outside. So imagine the level of resolve one has to have in order to live your story. So now you become the outlier because you've successfully transcended, in effect, slavery, torture. In the prison system is the only place in America that slavery is legal. So now, in modern times, as a teenager, you got past that. What did you learn while you were in prison? What resources were available to you in prison? Did you read books? Were books available? Because a lot of times books aren't available, and if books are available, they're available in a limited way, right? What were you able to read? What did you use to fortify yourself after 22 years?
For me, like I said, I was 18, 2 years into my life sentence. I was in a maximum security prison, and a guy came to my cell and he asked me, was I aware of George Jackson? And I said, well, is he some kin of Michael Jackson? And he laughed, right? So he was like, nah, and he had the book Solidarity, Brother, and he slid it to me. So I read this book of prison letters by this man, George Jackson, who was in prison from 1959 to 1970. And me seeing him talk about subjects like communism and socialism and capitalism, Ho Chi Minh, Mao Zedong, Joseph Stalin, so it made me aware of how ignorant that I was. Mm-hmm. And when he started to talk about economics, and I started to learn that me living in Washington, D.C., I was in close proximity to the three most powerful institutions in the world. And I'm not talking about the White House, the Capitol, and the Pentagon. I'm talking about the Federal Reserve Bank, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. So for me, what I read, after I read George Jackson, the thing that I did was I said, okay, Malcolm X learned the dictionary from A to Z. That worked for him in his era. I said, but for me, I realized that my crimes were because I didn't know other ways to make money besides selling crack, cocaine, and robbing people. So I said, well, I can sell. I have entrepreneurship skills. I just didn't have other venues to flourish. So what I did was I said, instead of reading the Webster's Dictionary from A to Z, I'm going to read the Burns Finance and Investment Terms Dictionary from A to Z. I'm going to read the Wall Street Journal every day. I'm not going to read the entertainment and the sports section. I'm going to read all about the money and economics and business and finance. And once I started to do that and to study our ancestors like Madam C.J. Walker, Oprah Winfrey, Jay-Z, people who came from adverse circumstances but yet still were able to actualize their greatness socially and financially, then I just took that and I just followed that model. And I approached it with a level of fearlessness because I felt like I already have life. So there's nothing else left to fear. I have nothing else to lose but my chains.
Jeff Brown just entered the conversation. Jeff, I know you've been listening.
Yeah.
Which is a rarity.
Yeah. That's just a new skill. It's a new thing I'm working on.
But you're here and you're getting it in, man. Yeah. You already know how we do on this show, man. What can you give this brother? What can you add to this brother? He's already rebuilt himself. He's already remade himself. What can you give him?
I'm gonna start calling my. You know how I agree and disagree at the same time. I'm gonna start calling it co-signing. I got to co-sign. What this brother has proven over and over is that this is a web that is cast specifically to catch the strong. What he went through is the yang to the NFL, NBA, sing and dance yin. Okay? Those who sing and dance, those who make it to the NFL, those who make it to journalism, those who go to college, they represent our strong on the yin side. Those who wind up selling dope, those who wind up successful at it, a Rick Ross,
right?
They are the yang of our excellence.
Yang.
These are the cats that said, you know what? This road is closed to me, but I'm not going to sit here and starve and watch my family starve.
Right.
What can I do? And they take the same and apply the same concepts, the same rules. I have yet to meet a stupid, successful dope dealer. Ooh. I have yet. I do not refer to young brothers who get caught in this as gangbang. I know you don't longer use the term gangs to describe Bloods, Crips, Disciples, Vice Lords. None of them. These are tribes. These brothers are tribes. All they did was, after you took their leaders, assemble. The only reason they hate one another is because of where their grandmama was forced to move. You know why you a Blood and you a Crip? Because of where your grandmama moved. That's it. That's it. But you have been put in this web, and I applaud this brother. I absolutely applaud this brother. And I'm going to say this and hand off to Uncle Bobby.
Yes.
Where this brother is exceptional is not in his intelligence, not in his drive, but that he used those things to make it out of this fucked up gauntlet.
Man. Jeez. Bobby?
Yeah, I want to frame the amazement I'm experiencing right now sitting next to this brother. There's a prison in Mississippi called Parchman.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Uncle Bobby.
And in the last few months, it's been at least 10 brothers that have died in prison violently. And it goes largely unnoticed because we still don't understand the connectivity to those that are behind bars and those of us on the outside, because there's only two kinds of folks in the whole world, the caught and the uncaught.
And the uncaught.
And to know that this brother survived the impossibility of not only staying alive, but coming back into society with a sense of purpose, a dedication to enlightenment, so that others that followed behind him don't have to go through the madness that happens behind bars. I done been to jail, I ain't never been to prison, and you can't tell the difference between jail and hell. They both the same.
You can't tell the difference between jail and hell.
They both the same. And having worked with Jim Brown's program for 30 years.
That's where I was going to go. Right there.
I know this brother because I've sat in rooms over those 30 years with cats that had that look, that darkness.
Yeah.
And the program was amazing in the following way. It allowed these kind of cats to frame a new life based on three principles: eliminate the negative, establish the facts, and choose your best options. This brother didn't go through the curriculum, but unconsciously, he represents everything that's beautiful about the American program.
What I want you to do real quick, Bobby, is break that down. Break down what the American program offers for someone like him, someone who's just coming out of prison, someone who's been in prison long term, someone who's been institutionalized by that system. What can the American project or program do to help break up that conditioning?
Well, it goes back to an in-depth explanation of those three principles. Eliminate the negative. And that's not just a saying, it's a mindset. Because the first thing people do when they go through the decision-making process is get caught up in the emotion. And if you operate out of emotion, you're going to make more bad decisions. And so the first thing we do when we sit in that circle, it's a special place, it's a spiritual place. And we allow folks to, for the first time in their lives, in many instances, be honest with themselves, which leads to the second principle, and that is establish the facts. Because at some point, you will only be free of the baggage that you're carrying once you admit that some of this is my fault.
That's what I'm about to go there.
Some of this is my fault.
Yeah.
The system only produces more reasons for you to justify your fault, which is the only thing that you can really control.
So basically take ownership of your actions.
You got to do that, man. You got to do that. And then choosing your best option becomes simpler.
Right.
Because you have taken back control of your life, and it allows you to determine the rest of your life.
Brother Halim, can I see the book one more time? If you look at this book,
that's a picture of me on the day that I was arrested.
This is a child. this is kind of hurtful, because if you're a father of boys, you've seen your son at this stage of development. You understand? This is a boy that they imprisoned. Look, do you see this, Bobby?
It's taking my breath away.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, do you see this, Jeff? This is a child. This is a boy. This is not a man. This is a boy when they arrested this guy. Now.
Okay.
So now, but go ahead, Jeff. What you got?
What that picture does for me is amplifies the monster, the horrible motherfucker that can look into that face and say, if you don't cooperate with me, I am going to condemn the rest of your life purely because you won't help me by telling me who is selling the poison I put there in the first fucking place.
Damn.
That's the monster you dealing with.
Damn. So now, they made a monster. Talk to me about the darkness you needed to delve into in order to survive. Because I know you had to go dark before you went light. Mm-hmm. I know you had to go down deep into this place because this is where you at now.
Right.
So talk to me about the process of going dark.
For me, you have to understand that DC for 10 years had the highest murder rate per capita of any city in America. And for 20 years, DC had the highest incarceration rate of any city in the world. Mm-hmm. So like George Jackson said in Solidarity, brother, young black boys entering the prison system only takes a minor psychic adjustment. We're already there. I remember as kids in elementary school, our local prison before Bill Clinton closed it and sent us to the federal system was called Lawton. And when we would play basketball, 6, 7, 8 years old, we would say, are we playing Lawton ball? And Lawton ball mean like no fouls, no,
no blood, no foul.
No blood, no foul.
We're kids saying that we're playing Lawton ball. And then we would watch movies like American Me and Blood In and Blood Out. So for me, I already was numb to death. I have seen my childhood hero was murdered when I was 11. And then somebody was, murdered in retaliation for that when I was 11. And I saw him die before my eyes. My best friend, Jerome Bell, a.k.a. Chip, was murdered February 14th, 1996. When he was 17, I was 15. So when I entered prison, I already was numb to violence, to death, and I was fearless. So my greatest challenge once I came to prison was, how do I use this fearlessness? Because I already knew once I went in there with the mindset that nobody, no matter how young I looked, no matter how small I was, and it was no way I was going to allow anybody to victimize me. And at that time, I thought that violence and being tough was something that was celebratory. But then, and I did some things, because guys tried me.
Of course.
I stabbed some guys and fought some guys. Because in our prison culture, what they call pushing a knife is a part of the culture. Mm-hmm. And, I'm a small guy with pretty eyes and light skin, the butt bandits and stuff.
Come on, brother.
So,
as soon as you walked in.
But once they seen that I really was fearless and I was willing to do anything by any means necessary to defend my person and property and my honor, then I didn't have those problems no more. So then I was given the space to be me. Wow. And me is just like a compassionate, loving, empathetic person.
Right.
But I had to do dark things to create that space in the jungle.
Yeah.
How long did that take?
2 years.
Man.
I was wilding from 16 to 18. I was wilding out. But I still was in the law library. Like a lot of stuff that I was wilding out about wasn't against convict to convict. I understood at the beginning, like, man, our goal to get out of it, our goal in prison is to get out. So them not allowing us to go to the law library, we're going to stab each other. Well, let's burn the tear down to get to the law library. So that was my first riot, was that we set the tears on fire to get to the law library. So they allowed me to go to the law library one day a week because they figured out, oh, you masterminded all of this. You the only one that's going to the law library every week.
Wow.
So,
All right, let me get this straight. They actually prohibited you, told you could not go. Now, was the law library in the prison?
the law library was in the jail. I was in adult jail, DC jail, and every adult was allowed to go at least once a week and to go outside 5 days a week. They were not taking us outside and they was not taking us to the law library. They saying that we were juveniles. So they just was keeping it. We had no GED programs, no high school diploma programs, no psychological cognitive therapy programs. We had nothing. They just put us on a tier. All of us was facing life. It was 18 of us. And they just allowed us to make knives and destroy each other all day, every day.
Damn. See, so this is what this is all reminding me of. Star Wars. Star Wars. You get the Jedi and you get the Sith. And the prison system seems like, especially when it comes to black men, they don't mind making more Sith. Like, because you have to go to a dark place in order to just survive. And like this brother just explained, 18 of y'all, no resources, no therapy, no behavioral adjustment, with therapy or books or no resources. But I'm going to allow you guys to make weapons to kill each other. And he went through that for 2 years. He had to go through that darkness for 2 years before he found the light. So now, in finding the light, somebody offered you an idea, a book, a concept. Again, tell the people what that book was.
The book was Solidaire Brothers by George Jackson, a brother who was incarcerated in the state of California in the year of 1959 for a $20 gas station robbery, which he said that he was innocent of, and they gave him a sentence, indeterminate life sentence of 1 year to life. And the parole board denied them year after year after year until he was assassinated in San Quentin prison.
Jeff wasn't here when you explained indeterminate life sentence.
2 of them.
Please explain that for Jeff so he can hear that again. If you're just tuning in to the ZoWhat show, man, we have an amazing brother on the show right now, a survivor, a winner, someone who came from the depths of hell, somebody who came from the dark side back to the light side. Halim A. Flowers, an author, an artist. We're going to give you a link to where you could get his book. As a matter of fact, Halim, where can they purchase your book right now?
All of my books are at Amazon.com. You can go to my author page, Halim Flowers, Halim, middle initial A, last name Flowers at Amazon.com.
Wow. Jeff.
Yes, sir.
This is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm looking for, brother. Because when we start talking about these things, people get mad at us when we point out racism in America, when we point out discrimination in America. You get some black people in America that talks about bootstrappers, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You don't have to be in this situation. And that's a half truth. That's not a whole truth, and that's not a whole lie. That's a half truth, right? There are certain levels that you get to, you will run up against systematic racism. You will run up against ideological redlining. See, when Malcolm was young and he was in school and he told that teacher, I want to be a lawyer. And that teacher said, no.
You need to learn how to work with your hands.
You need to figure out how to build a lawnmower, man.
Right.
You understand?
Be realistic.
So that's intellectual redlining.
Oh, sure.
History is intellectual redlining because you get to lie and make up stories as you go along. And typically the people who suffer from that are the originators, the people who created the thing that these people covet. So now when I look at this young man right here, coming straight out of hell, making a life for himself I'm saying, how do we turn this into a curriculum? Right? Because again, who's more likely to go to jail over nothing in America than a black man? Over nothing. This brother was 16, still a kid. They created a whole plea bargain situation for him that would have reduced his sentence to months as an accessory. But because he didn't have no information or didn't roll over or whatever,
Right.
we
He ain't no snitch.
We about to give you 2 life sentences? An indeterminate life sentence.
What a mind crime that is.
Then you got white people running around here talking about, Nancy Pelosi. We're not going to talk about reparations because that happened centuries ago. Or Mitch McConnell, right? We're not going to talk about reparations. That was 150 years ago. Nobody living today is responsible for that. But all white people living today benefit from slavery through through wealth, right? Your wealth came from the backs of slavery. We were the shoes. You guys wore the shoes. What, Jeff? Let's.
What? No.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm focusing. I'm
it
working.
Seems like
doing my inner
have
work.
To use the bathroom.
There is no wealth that is not connected directly to chattel slavery, period. And it hit me because I used to go to Monterey like 4 times a year. Right. And that's some of the most expensive dirt on this rock.
Right.
And I was at Pebble Beach for the concourse, for the car show.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I was looking at these white folks looking at me like I got a doo-doo suit on.
A doo-doo suit.
And it hit me. Every one of you here is spending money that came from my people's work. Every fucking nickel that you have has black blood on it. There is the world economy in its present form was shaped in the 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries by us and what we did in order to make America this financial tumor that's on the body of Great Britain.
Now, Bobby.
So, brother.
No, I got a question for you specifically for your body of knowledge here. Brother, you've seen the 60s. You've seen the 50s. Can you talk a little bit about how black artists were put, because he's an artist as well. I'm going to play some of his music in a minute. Black artists was put in a position to where if you wanted to make it big, you had to go to these mob-run record deals, record labels, right? And they understood, we ain't going to give you no real money. We going to own your publishing.
But here's a Cadillac.
But here's a Cadillac, right? I need you to talk about a little bit of that history because you got history with the brother, the Cuba Goodings people too, right? Talk to me about how artists, and I'm going to tie all of this back into this brother's story. Talk to me about how artists were being raped and robbed and used by this system called the music industry.
Well, we'll start with a song that's still, very, very popular worldwide. It's called "You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog."
Come on, Bobby.
It was written by Big Mama Thornton. She got $50 for that song. And Elvis Presley's estate is still generating millions of dollars annually in revenue from that was his biggest hit. And in the 50s, when they finally allowed recordings to be, globalized, they would call them race records. And they wouldn't put a face on there if it was a black artist. That included Nat Cole and all of the major artists of that era. And then in the 60s, they would just put images on the album covers and whatnot. The main thing about what you just said was the generational wealth was denied to the originators of what became R&B.
Right.
All right. And the Rolling Stones named a group after a song by Muddy Waters.
Yes.
And the reason that becomes important is because everybody knew and paid homage to the originators of the world's most popular music. Mm-hmm. And there was a merging of gospel music. See, gospel and the blues morphed into soul music. And there were so many artists that just never got the acclaim nor the money for their genius. And then it just kept getting worse. Even to this day, we'll create music like hip hop. And then next thing you know, you got a Vanilla Ice.
So now let me ask you this, Bobby. Let me ask you this. How did those white people who were executives at that time get the money to start a label, to fund a label?
Well, some of it was generational money. Some of it was mob money. And they interrelate in a serious kind of
way. Do you see?
Wow.
Do you see that?
Yeah,
see,
yeah.
I'm painting this picture because I'm saying your record industry execs of the 50s, of the 60s, of even the 40s, you got generational money because slavery played a factor in the accumulation of wealth for your family.
And mob money, which is criminal money.
Yeah.
But even if you go mob money and go overseas to Italy, we want to talk slavery all over the world? Do we?
But you know, I got to add a caveat. And it's something that we need to be held accountable for. If you go back through the catalogs of all the legendary black artists from the 50s and the 60s, they are all owned by European labels now. Because we didn't see the value of the blues. All right. So anytime you purchase an old album by a black artist, most of the time the check is going to European owners of our music. And we need to take a serious look at ownership at this point in time, because it doesn't do you any good to be the creator if you're not the end user, the end beneficiary of your own work. And to that extent, I give the hip-hop generation some credit. They say, look, we're going out the back of the car.
We're going to own this.
You see what I mean?
Right.
And now what we have to do, because I just saw an article the other day, and they listed 10 rappers, and I'd heard of all of them, that are broke. And have generated hundreds of millions of dollars through record sales. And I'm like, when are we going to get off that boat?
Wow. Now, Halim, you're also an artist. And you're
And a serial entrepreneur.
well, you got to be if you're an artist.
You say a serial
Entrepreneur. You gotta be. You gotta be if you're an artist, because everybody up in here is an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And we serial about it.
And there's no business like Mo business.
Come on now.
So talk to me, man, about your entrepreneurial perspective, what it is that you do that makes you an entrepreneur. Talk to me about your artistry.
As I said, I took the blueprint, because the topic was blueprint. Creating a blueprint. I took the blueprint from Malcolm X and switched it into the 21st century. Instead of studying the Webster's dictionary from A to Z, all of those words would not be important to me getting out.
Right.
I had to study the law, the Black's Law Dictionary from A to Z,
Right.
to litigate to get the hell out of hell.
Wow.
Right? And then I had to study the Burns Financial Dictionary of investment terms, in real estate terms, and accounting terms, so that when I do get out, I can understand how to have proper ownership, copyright, trademark, service mark protection of my intellectual property, and then to be able to strategically build genuine relationships with individuals and institutions to scale my economic viability. So when I was in prison, when I was 24, I had already written a couple of books. So I said, instead of me just trying to send, submission letters to these publishers, let me find out how to start my own publishing company. So while I was in prison, I started my own publishing company. Struggle Against the Odds Communications, because I had mentors in prison who had their own publishing companies. So whereas though everybody was writing urban novels about the drug life and stuff. I was like, well, I don't want to promote that. I don't glorify that. I'm going to write all nonfiction books. Books, poetry, self-help, financial literacy. I have one book titled What Our Fathers Never Told Us. Information that I gathered from our elders and ancestors that my fathers never told me. I wrote a financial literacy book called Niggonomics, What Blacks Must Know About Money.
Okay, yeah, where's that one?
Hey, people in the chat room are asking right now. People in the chat room are asking right now, where do they find your books? Tell them right now. Tell them right now.
At Amazon.com, my author page, Halim, Halim, Flowers, Flowers, at Amazon.com.
Bobby?
Two things. One quick question and then a request from you, Zo.
Yeah.
How did you get out of prison?
That's big.
In 2005, the Supreme Court released a case called, U.S. Supreme Court was a case called Roper versus Simmons that stated that a juvenile under the age of 18 cannot get the death penalty. In 2010, the U.S. Supreme Court, in a case called Graham versus Florida, stated that a juvenile cannot get life without parole for a non-homicide offense. In 2012, Miller versus Alabama, the U.S. Supreme Court stated that no juvenile can get an automatic life without parole sentence for a homicide. So in 2016, in Montgomery versus Louisiana, the U.S. Supreme Court said that the rulings of these juvenile Eighth Amendment cruel and unusual punishment cases out of the U.S. Constitution, these rulings were meant to be applied retroactively. So what D.C. did was local D.C. City Council and the mayor, they legislated a law called the Incarceration Reduction Amendment Act. And this law was enacted on April 4th, 2017, the date that Dr. King was assassinated. And under this law, if you committed an offense under the age of 18 and you had served at least 20 years in prison, then you can petition the courts for the opportunity, not automatic, just a consideration to be released. So I use my books and my voice from behind the walls to engage with the local legislators, because when they originally wrote the law, it was not going to be applied retroactively, meaning that it was only going to apply to people who would come in 2017. So I started to email the city council and the mayor and was saying how stupid that would be when you have people that's been in prison since the 80s and the 90s. So through that, they amended the law, made it retroactive, and I was able to get out on March the 21st, 2019.
Oh, wow, brother. So welcome home. First off, with you being home less than a year, welcome home. Question: are you familiar with with NACA, the National Association of Campus Activities?
No, sir.
Okay. This I submit to you. Way back in '94, I broke Sinbrad's record for the number of colleges performed in a year. You have one hell of a story to tell. I think you should, as soon as humanly possible, look up NACA, the National Association of Campus Activities. I don't know of any black agents. I strongly want you to go with a black agent, but either way, you need to go on a college tour, and not just a black one. It's some from lawmakers. You need to tell your story at Harvard, at Princeton, at Yale. And the way to do that is that NACA, every year, they have these conventions where basically the buyers of entertainment for college come to see you perform. And if you could get up and give a 10-minute speech, brother, you would be very busy. You would be very busy. I am sure that there are many colleges that want to see you. Anybody who's listening to this show who happens to work with NACA, or you are a campus agent, or you are a DSA of any type, you need to reach out to this brother because he needs to speak at your school.
Question. And Jeff, I salute you for bringing that kind of information to the brother, because that's what we really are about on on this platform, brothers helping brothers. When you walked out of those doors, what was the biggest adjustment you had to make to a world that had changed so immensely in 22 years?
The biggest adjustment was that when you inside a prison, you have to call people, and the call is only limited to 15 minutes. And you can email people, but it's not like instant messaging. Right. So, and you have no access to the internet or social media. So the biggest thing for me was being an entrepreneur, being excited to get to the cell phone, to be able to market on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, but not being prepared to handle for the onslaught of people coming at me through text, DM on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, FaceTime. It was like so many people and I was having anxiety attacks for like the first week because it was such a massive intake of
just an overload.
It was an overload. Like my Facebook page crashed, and so that was for me the greatest adjustment. But as far as getting out and hustling the brand, building the brand, that was easy because I'm the type of person that naturally I stay up late, I get up early, I work out. I love what I do, which is making art, whether it's poems, spoken word, paintings, photographs. And I'm just, I'm addicted to learning. And I'm addicted to, by me being addicted to learning and having learned so much through books and magazines and newspapers, now I'm addicted to people, engaging with people who can teach me things that can help me to be a better human being, which will reflect into better output of social and economical artworks.
So my request, if I may,
and then Jeff, because Jeff has a request as well.
I got to leave in a few minutes.
Yeah,
and I was hoping to hear some of the brothers' music before I left.
I got you.
Thank you.
I'm right here.
Okay.
Don't get it twisted, pimp. We came prepared.
I got a question. I'm going to give it to him. I got a question for Dr. Flowers. What, and this may seem like a goofy question, but what was the first free, fun thing that you would consider fun that you did when it hit you? I can go where I want. I can do it. What was the first fun, free thing you did?
For me, it was just going to my mother's house.
Wow.
Eating my mother food, and I took a shower in her house, and I didn't have to take a shower with shower shoes on.
Wow.
And then
all the stuff we take for granted.
Right, and then I went in the shower, and instead of me using the proper body wash, I used this body wash. I thought it was body wash, but it really was shampoo with menthol in it. So as I'm washing my private parts, I'm like, oh! So my mother came up to the bed. I said, "Mom, this thing burning." She was like, "No, boy, that's the shampoo." So it was funny.
Right.
Just to be with my mother.
That's beautiful.
Now talk to me, man. How did she feel like when she saw you, when she got you back? What was her response?
Yeah, bro.
My mother, one of those quiet warriors, man. She don't show emotion. I know she was overwhelmed, but my mother just don't show. She don't express emotion. I know she was happy and overjoyed, but my mother is such a quiet storm.
Wow.
And she's she's an entrepreneur, businesswoman. So her whole thing is, look, you got this set up. You going to speak there this day. Make sure you let me know.
Wow.
Here go your credit card, and
Go ahead, mama.
Yeah. See, even mama had to go to a place to say, this is what I need to be in order to
deal with this.
Right.
That's heavy, man. Hey, we're going to play this record real quick at Bobby's request. Bobby always requesting shit. It's cool. Tell me, what does this mean? Revolution will be digitized.
I love it.
The revolution will be digitized. The name of my album I'm working on is Love is the Revolution, but as Bobby stated, I am a direct descendant of Gil Scott-Heron. That's one of our ancestors.
Oh, wow.
And, as artists, we have what's known as your artistry. Like the artists who influence you the most. For me, is like Gil Scott-Heron, Jay-Z, John Michel Basquiat. So when I heard the song, The Revolution will be televised, right? Will not be televised by Gil Scott. I felt that I had to remake that for the 21st century.
Oh, wow.
And put a modern day spin on it.
Okay, well, let's see what it is. Let's see what it looked like. I'm gonna play it right now.
You will be able to stay at home, brother. You will be able to log in, turn up, and show out. You will be able to find yourself on perks and trip out with no commercials, because the revolution will be digitized. The revolution will be digitized. The revolution will be brought to you by Instagram in 40 characters with no ad interruptions. The revolution will show you pictures of Trump posting a tweet and leading a rant by Jeff Sessions, General Milley, and Mike Pence to eat genetically modified foods created from gentrified laboratories. The revolution will be digitized. The revolution will be brought to you by Coachella and will star Beyonce Knowles and Cardi B, or Daniels Tiger and Cantarina Kitty. The revolution will give your lips Kylie Jenner sex appeal. The revolution will silicone inject your nerves. The revolution's Photoshop will make you appear 50 pounds slimmer, because the revolution will be digitized, sister. There will be paparazzi pictures of you and LeBron James riding their scooter pad down a block on a dead drag, or fighting to slide their smart flat television into a stolen Uber. BuzzFeed will be able to predict the winner at 7:50 or report from 69 districts. The revolution will be digitized. There will be posts of cops shooting down brothers on the Insta Story replay. There will be posts of cops shooting down sisters on the Insta Story replay. There will be filters of Al Sharpton being paraded down gentrified Harlem on a trolley with an old school process. There will be boomerangs and screenshots of Bill Cosby prowling through Philly in a red, black, and green dashiki that he had been saving for just a proper occasion. This is us. Keeping Up with the Kardashians and The Walking Dead will continue to be so goddamn relevant. And women will still care if Leo finally gets down with Steffi on The Bold and the Beautiful. Because black people will be on YouTube looking for a brighter day. The revolution will be digitized. There will be highlights on the 11 o'clock Huffington Post and pictures of shaved-armed feminists, progressive liberals, and Elizabeth Warren attacking the bankers. The theme song will be written by Post Malone or Jay-Z, or sung by Alicia Keys, Katy Perry, Taylor Swift, or Bruno Mars, or the Maroon 5. The revolution will be digitized. The revolution will be right back because it has no ads about a white lie, white hope, or white flight. You will have to worry about a bug in your laptop, a spam on your phone, or a virus in your desktop. The revolution will go better with high fructose Coke. The revolution will fight the pesticides that may cause bad breath. The revolution will put you in the autonomous vehicle's passenger seat. The revolution will be digitized, will be digitized, will be digitized, will be digitized. The revolution will be streaming, brothers. The revolution will be on IG Live.
VOR Radio, where mindfulness, music, and meaningful conversation merge.
Boy, we up in here. Halim A. Flowers. If you not knowing, you better be knowing, man. We up in here. That was cold-blooded. Where can they find it? People are asking, where can they get it?
I didn't release that yet. When the album dropped, it'll definitely be on all the outlets, Apple, all the streaming. So right now, it's just a matter of shout out to Tone P. That's executive producer. You know, I couldn't do it without him. So now we just finishing it up.
So we just debuted it right now.
Yeah, we just debuted it.
Wow.
Wow. So do you live here or in D.C.?
I'm in D.C.
Oh. So you come back and forth from time to time?
Well, he got to now. He got to. He's in demand.
Right.
He's in demand. So let me break this down really quickly. I wanted to ask this question before I move to the next phase of this discussion. What year did you go in and what year did you come out? Because you missed 2 decades.
I went in on January 21st, 1997, and I was released March 21st, 2019.
Shit. Yeah.
22 and change.
22 and 2.
This brother spent the amount of time of his life to where if a child was born on the day he went in, it's an adult. He spent a childhood amount of time, not his child, not the end of his childhood.
No. A childhood. He had a whole childhood
worth of jail time.
Yes. So now let's progress this conversation even further. With all of the obstacles that we got to go through as black men in America, the shit it almost befuddles me, because with all of the stuff we got to go through, all of the setbacks, all of the things that are there, we still have to find some kind of way to become an outlier. We still have to find a way to become special. You hear slogans like black girl magic, but you never hear fucking black man warlock. You gotta be a warlock.
Right.
You gotta be an alchemist to be able to overcome some of the things that this young brother overcame. And he represents one story.
Right.
If we start going through all of the stories that are out there that are similar to his, you gotta be a superhuman to be able to come above that, to rise above that, to ascend above that. Now it's time for us to figure out a way. How do we get there? Jeff Brown, how do we become an outlier? And I told him, we're the problem. We're the victims in this society, even if we don't go to jail. Right? The shit we got to overcome, even if we don't go to jail. But imagine having to go to jail. On top of that. So now the question again is, how do you become extraordinary? It obviously is in us innately, because this brother just proved that. How do we figure it out? How do we get to the next level? How do we discover, like, man, there's something in me that makes me extraordinary. There's something in me that makes me transcendent, that makes me different than anybody else.
Well, first, let's look at that. That being what he overcame. What this brother overcame was the thought of evil masterminds compounded over many years to come up with, hey, let's make areas where we keep them. Then let's pull all the resources out of those areas. Let's go back and harvest those areas for the best of them. And then let's penalize the other ones who raise up and try to make their way out of it, making their own rules with the poison we gave them. And then let's put them inside. Feed them substandard food. Treat them like savages. Masterminds came up with this plan, this gauntlet, that was supposed to eat them all. This brother overcame that. In order for us to overcome, this must be the model. Right. This must be the model. This dude showed you that these masterminds sat down in every direction. They night and day plot on how to destroy you. Night and day, think tanks put together purely to destroy you. And this brother went, oh yeah, well watch this shit right here.
Wow, Bobby, models of possibility. I need models of possibility right now. Give me a model of possibility for a brother in his particular situation.
Antoine Fisher.
Keep going.
I've called this brother a real friend for 15 years now. Although he's never been incarcerated, he was born in prison, literally. And the parallel with your story is the aura around you. And it's something that we need to be able to extract from those experiences, yours and Antoine's, in the sense that you guys represent the fact that we spend far too much time focusing on the victim aspect of this as opposed to what is it about certain people internally that you can draw.
That's what we talking
about his condition. And this brother was sleeping in Cleveland on a grate in sub-zero weather. And for the only time he got locked up, he stole a coat. And he was in juvenile for a moment. And then when he got out of there, he joined the Navy. Okay, but I've always wondered, what switch did they turn on, Antoine and this brother, that we can share with the general population in terms of dealing with adversity? Now,
those are questions for you. Like you had to know that there was something in you that was more than your environment. That could actually lift you up out of that environment. How did you connect with the inner being, the inner God, the inner source, the inner power that said, no, this place is not going to defeat me? How did you connect to that? And once you connected to that, how did you start to cultivate it? Go.
The simple thing is to study our ancestors, our elders. When I read a Sada Shakur book, one of the things that she said about prison is a wall and nothing else at all. A wall can be built and a wall can fall, right? And she approached that wall with that mentality. And she, through that mentality, through the law of attraction, what is real, we don't attract what we want, but what we are. And sometimes we need to see what we want. This is when you study your ancestors. You need to visualize, you need examples. So you study your ancestors who look like you, who've been through similar or the same thing that you're going through, and you see how they have transcended their adversity. And you pull from that.
Right.
So for me, once I started to study the people who I believe to be great, who look like me, who went through the same things in the same soil that I'm going through it, even though mine may be a little bit different, I pulled from them. And then once I really realized that, you know what, this thing is mental. We are really attracting who we are and not what we want. So that if I am a serial entrepreneur, if I am an artist, if I am a genius, if I am a liberated human being, then I have to be that in the midst of sitting in a cell serving 2 life sentences. And I can't allow my temporary external reality to dictate my entire life.
And you had to visualize that the situation was temporary, even though they labeled it as indeterminate.
Exactly. Because the main thing that they prevented us from doing during slavery is learning how to read and write. And once you understand that a life sentence is nothing but that's written on a judgment and commitment order, and just as much as they can write life, they could come back later and say release.
Right.
So for me, I had to see release in the midst of counselors, case managers, unit managers, wardens, and correctional officers, and lawyers and prosecutors keep telling me, you a lifer, you a lifer, you a lifer. Why do you want to go to this job fair? Because I'm getting out. Why do you want, you can't take, you have to be within 18 months of release. I'm taking the class because I'm getting out in 18 months.
Wow.
This says that you're a lifer. I don't give a damn what that says. I'm getting out. So I wrote this book right here. It's one of my books titled Mind Over Matter. And when I wrote this book right here, Mind Over Matter, in 2009, I wrote about the 10 principles that it takes to transcend adversity.
Talk about them.
And I knew
give us 3 of them.
Faith, love,
yes,
and hope.
There we go. This is the blueprint for becoming an outlier after experiencing a traumatic experience like prison, like an indeterminate life sentence. This brother is giving you the blueprint for how you change your reality. Keep going, brother. Mind over matter. Give us 2 more.
Faith, love, hope, fearlessness, and vision.
Look at that.
Okay.
Bobby?
Quick question.
And then Jeff.
You live in Washington, D.C. How do you view the city as it's presently configured? White people have moved back into the city. is it a hopeless situation? What's being done in D.C. that I'm not hearing about to stem the tide and the effects of gentrification?
D.C., which a lot of people don't know, has been under gentrification since the early 1900s. It just did not start in the 21st century. That's the first thing. Originally, blacks and Irish were the predominant population of Georgetown, which is the richest area of D.C. today. Through what was known as urban renewal,
Which is
another
Negro
name.
removal.
Right. This was how the blacks were removed from Georgetown, and then they moved to Southeast. Right? So now they're just being pushed out more and more. But for me, I never see anything as impossible. I just think that we have to get out of the complaint attitude about what's going on.
Right.
Like you say, the three things that you do at the Jim Brown American.
Okay.
We have to look at the facts and then come up with the best options to maintain ownership
You think he wasn't listening?
in DC.
You think he wasn't listening?
Because we have weapons at our disposal. Like, you know, my wife is 30 years young and she's a homeowner. They have programs to help you get homes. But we don't access the resources. So first, I'm not saying that we're not going through systematic real estate destruction. But what I'm saying is let's first recognize the remedies that we have accessible to us and let's exhaust our remedies.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Let's
like
take
that.
advantage of these programs, get these houses where the government will pay for us to get these homes
Yes.
and buy up as many properties as we can.
Yes.
Because we still 48% of the population.
Jeff Brown.
Yeah. I'm gonna need you, brother, and I would imagine you may be one of the few people qualified to do this for me. I have a phrase that I'm gonna need you to help me destroy. One of my favorite phrases is hope is for shitty planners.
But clearly,
I'm gonna have to because
clearly, and we've been
Right.
trying to tell you this for years,
right,
but it's cool.
you're not qualified. This dude,
Why am I not qualified?
because you did the bruh. Come on. If
I got my own
anybody-
story, Jeff.
Yeah, but bruh, you gonna stack it up against this one?
I don't have to. It's its own story.
So I love you with all
You
my
just
heart.
don't like listening to people
No.
when they tell you high level shit
I don't.
that you didn't come up with.
No, exactly. Now, here's the reason I come up with when I say hope is for shitty planners. It is because, and it came from seeing Barack Obama put hope under his name and black people doing the rest in their minds.
Right.
Where you came from right now is some brothers that's not going to the library, the law library, that's not studying, that's not looking at the next steps in order to do what you did in order to get out, that show hope and it happened. To me, your plan, that ability. Okay, now I'm. Is there going to be a rant today?
No.
Okay, then I
This
got to
is
get
different
this out.
show.
Okay, different show. Okay,
Go ahead,
Your
Jeff.
ability to plan supersedes the two or lines up with the two most strongest words, in my opinion, in the English language. What now? Everybody get caught up in I didn't and he shouldn't have and I'm lost. What now? That what now is not about hope. What now equals plan. I show hope this. To me, I don't deal in that. I deal in the plan. What do you think of that?
I had a discussion with a lady from Chicago last night, and we was talking about goals and plans.
Yes, sir.
Goals do not have to be practical. Because I told her that my goals have to be practical. She said, no, goals do not have to be practical.
Okay.
The plan has to be practical. Right?
Wow. Okay.
The goals can be impossible.
Right.
But the plan to get there has to be solid.
Yes.
So she said, this is where you say you reach for the stars and maybe you might land on the clouds.
Right.
So for me, hope is after you have a vision and a plan that you believe is practical.
Yes, sir.
Because Oprah Winfrey said that when you share your dreams with others, if it doesn't make them laugh, you're not dreaming big enough. Right?
Right.
So hope, authentic hope, or let me say credible hope.
Sure.
Hope that is credible.
Sure.
Is backed up not just with a plan, because you can have the strongest plan in the world, but you have to have the discipline to eat, sleep, sweat, dream, cry.
That plan.
That plan. You have to become the plan.
Right.
And this is what I did every morning that I got up. I prayed. I read the paper. I worked out.
Right.
I went to the law library. I did my emails. I would find out about you. I would email you. I didn't care if you didn't respond.
Right.
Because I had the hope that, okay, he didn't respond while I'm in here. But one day he's going to hear my name, Halim Flowers, again.
Yeah.
When I'm on that rise. And damn, that's the brother that emailed me when he was in.
Right.
Sure.
Let me get him now. So that's the hope. It's like the hope of a farmer. He hopes for the harvest.
Right.
But he plants the seed. He gives it water. He gives it light. And he weeds the weeds so that the harvest can come.
Bobby?
Yeah. First of all, so thank you for letting me be a part of what I hope would be a game-changing experience for people all over the world.
Right.
I do have to leave now. I have a consultation with my shooting coach, the legendary Jerry West, because I'm taking him down, bro. Taking
Tell
him
Jerry
down.
West, I said, I send my regards. John Burbank, the owner of the Warriors, told me that he's going to introduce me to Jerry West. I'm a Lakers fan.
Look at that.
Showtime.
Wow.
So tell him that John.
I'm going to show him the picture. John Burbank.
John Burbank. He's one of the owners of the Golden State Warriors.
Wow. See, man, it's a small,
Write that
beautiful
down,
word.
John Burbank.
Yeah,
Write
you
that
know, thank you there.
Thank you there, because I'm going to tell Jerry, you know. When I see Jerry, I'm going to say, Jerry, I had Dr. John friend. John friend.
And what had happened was,
I'm going to close with this. That which you seek purely in your heart is also seeking you. For a number of reasons I won't be able to get into right now, I needed this.
Yes, you did.
I needed this, man.
I got you.
I needed this. Hey,
Thank you, Bobby.
Until next time.
All right, Bobby.
How long you in town, bro?
It's Sunday night.
all right, brother.
All right. So let me do this really quickly. You're listening to the ZoWhat show, and we up in it right now. We have an amazing guest. We have a dope topic, you know, how to overcome hell, basically. 22 years of hell, an indeterminate life sentence. Halim A. Flowers is our guest, esteemed guest, author, activist. Man, the brother, man, is artist. The brother is just blowing our mind with this. Jeff said something about hope. And Halim said something about planning and goals get to be irrational, delusional even, and plans are more pragmatic, right? Plans are more linear. I keep trying to tell y'all, quantum mechanics is lined up the same way. We've got two dominant concepts of science in place. You have Einstein's theory of relativity, and you have quantum mechanics. Those are the two dominant forms or most successful forms of science we have currently. One deals with the big, the other deals with the small. Guess what? The small is the delusional because it's not linear, it's not logical. But all of the power comes from the subnuclear plane, right? That's where the big dreams, the big goals, and that's where all of that comes from. But the linear stuff, right, comes in the macro, the larger form. Einstein's theory of relativity deals with planets, deals with gravity, deals with things that are tangible in our world, right? Things that are linear, things that are logical, right? But on the lower level, when you go inside of the atom, that's when logic breaks down. That's when reason breaks down. So you get to dream the impossible dream in that space, right? And people don't understand this. You saying something so powerful, man, because you can pull that dream out of this subnuclear, subatomic space into the theory of relativity, into the macro, from the micro into the macro. The micro starts in the mind. What you believe, how you feel. Like you said, man, you got life. No, but I'm going to get out in 18 months. I'm here to take this job training, and I'm going to be here for that. That's the micro pulling into the macro. And you see people talk about this all the time, whether it be Tony Robbins, Wayne Dyer, Eckhart Tolle, Oprah Winfrey. All these people say, hey, write your dream out. Well, when you write your dream out, you've pulled it out of the micro and put it into the macro. You've pulled it out of the delusional and pulled it into the practical. And that's what this whole thing is about. You could have gave up. You could have been a dark side warrior in there. Like you said, that first 2 years, those first 2 years, 16 to 18, you had to darken your spirit in order to just survive. But then after that, somebody hit you with an idea. An idea is light. You got illuminated by a book, and the book changed the trajectory of your spirit. And then you started manifesting it moment by moment, thought by thought, day by day, and the next thing you know, you're out at 38. You went in at 16. And now I'm pushing right now. I'm like, yo, how do we make this a curriculum? How do we make this a belief system? I've been telling Jeff for years, whatever the thinker thinks, the prover will prove. I've been telling Jeff for years, as a man thinketh, so is he. What Jeff doesn't understand, and maybe Jeff can push back a little bit on this, is that hope, delusional hope, authentic hope, whatever you want to label it, versus a plan is fundamentally the same thing. It's fundamentally the same thing. One is chaotic and the other is organized. And sometimes, Jeff, as a musician, when you're constructing a song, or when you're constructing, Jeff, I need you to focus here.
When you're constructing.
When you're constructing a record, right, Jeff? That first creative aspect is chaotic. Yes or no?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely chaotic. When you first start.
Yes.
Well,
Talk to me about that process.
For me, ideas, and I'm going to share this with you in a second.
Okay.
For me, ideas in my head are like planes trying to land at LAX. They're all trying to land. I got to go, wait a minute. Okay, decrease your speed. I got this one here is almost out of gas. This one here needs to land because something else got to get off it. I'm constantly doing that. So it is about, for me, being able to organize those thoughts without clipping their freedom.
Right.
You prune, you trim, but you don't want to clip too much away.
That's the quantum space.
Yeah. And I'm doing that in here, trying to get it out.
Right.
Sure.
And then by the time you lay the drum track, which is the foundation.
Sure.
Right. The rhythm track. Right. Then you can start adding these embellishments on top. Right. Okay. It's the same thing. You have the micro and the macro. We're hoping in the micro to pull all of that through into the macro, I should say. So when I look at you, brother, first off, I want to ask you this, Halim. How many books do you have? How many books have you written?
I've written 11. I've published 11 books, but I've written almost 20 books.
Wow.
Give us the titles right now.
My punk ass still trying to
Right.
Oh my God.
Talking about hope ain't shit.
Hustling with trying to do one book.
You let Obama kill hope in you. Look at you. Mad at Obama, gave up on your most powerful asset. Go ahead. Name the name of your books, brother.
The poetry books is 4 of them. A Reason to Breathe, Volume 2, Till My Last Breath, Buried Alive, Dead Men Do Talk, and Unchainable. My memoir autobiography is titled Makings of a Menace, Contrition of a Man. My financial literacy book is titled Niggonomics, What Blacks Must Know About Money. My self-help book for prisoners, Blueprint for incarcerated people, is titled Time, How to Do It and Not Let It Do You. My self-help positive thinking books, Law of Attraction books, is Mind Over Matter. And the other one is titled Be Great Wherever You Are. My cognitive therapy workbook for youthful offenders is titled For Young Offenders. And lastly, my book for men who grew up without fathers or grew up with fathers but didn't get a lot of nurturing and a vast amount of what I believe to be necessary information to be thriving men in America. This book is titled What Our Fathers Never Told Us.
Man, and where can I get it? Where can I get it? Where can I get it? Where can I get it?
At Amazon.com. Under my name, my author page is Halim, Halim. My last name is Flowers, Flowers. And you can find the books at Amazon.com by searching Halim Flowers.
Now, if this brother isn't a reason for niggas to stop hating on each other,
how about it?
If this brother isn't a reason for black men and women to stop warring with each other, if this brother isn't an example or a reason for us not to take ownership of our thoughts, of our thinking. See, I get very frustrated when I look at the state of black people in America and I say, look, you're conditioning. This brother was in was in prison for 22 years. He went in at 16. He was institutionalized. But we are also institutionalized by excuses. We are institutionalized by apathy. We are institutionalized by somebody blaming. This is somebody else's fault. We are institutionalized by hating. We are institutionalized by extrapolating power by putting each other down. And the thing that bothers me the most is you can see this brother, you can hear this brother, and still be the same way after it's over. After you heard him speak, after you heard his story, we get moved by the testimony only momentarily. Malcolm had a testimony. Martin had a testimony. If you go back and you listen to the beef between W.E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey, yes. And we hear all of the stories and we get motivated for a moment. And the moment life hits you with uncertainty or some level of difficulty, you find exquisite ways to justify making excuses for not continuing.
Exquisite excuses?
Exquisite excuses, logical excuses, linear excuses, intellectual excuses for not keeping going.
Now repeat all of that and say shit instead of excuses.
Shit.
Exquisite shit.
And I'm just saying.
Because that's all it is.
I wake up every day, somebody in my own culture hating on somebody else. Somebody in my own culture hating on me. Somebody in my own culture is comparing me to somebody. Somebody in my own culture is breaking us down every day when the white man is off living his life, dominating the world. Waiting for you to grow up so he can offer you a deal.
Wow. Just say,
and this brother here did it himself. Go ahead, bro.
For those who listen, they could come see me tonight. I'll be performing at Proximity LA, and it'll be at, address is 3710 West Martin Luther King Boulevard.
Oh, you in the hood.
At Proximity LA, they created this whole beautiful space.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's beautiful. And people who are from there was like, I've never seen anything beautiful like this in the jungle.
Wow.
right? It's a whole beautiful exhibit of artwork and testimonies, and I'll be there giving a spoken word performance and the artist talk tonight at 8:00.
Wow.
Proximity, LA.
Well,
I'm an ambassador for Represent Justice. So that's what I'm here. Represent Justice.
It's driving me bananas, brother.
go ahead.
You remember how I told you most of the cats in my family look like you, like y'all? This brother is the spitting image of my first cousin. I'm telling him to send me a picture right now. He looks exactly, that is the face of my cousin.
Guess what? People on radio can't see him.
Okay, here's the point I'm making. We have been, not only has our minds been jumbled, but our DNA has been jumbled to the point that if I say, are you my cousin? I can't honestly say you're not.
Exactly.
So why then don't I treat you like you are and instead of assuming that you are not? Because my cousin, I would shed my blood for. My cousin, I would give my last to. Now imagine if, because I don't know that we're related, I treated us all that way and we treated us all that way.
Wow. I love the point, Jeff. Jeff, where can they find you on Instagram and all social media handles?
IG at GB Funny Style. Twitter, same thing. Just Jeff Brown on Facebook, where old black people hang out. Yeah, you can find me. You can find me there.
My Instagram is at Halim Flowers, at HalimFlowers. My Twitter is at The Real Halim, TheRealHalim.
All right. Hey, listen, we appreciate you for coming on. We appreciate you for sharing your story. And when I tell you, man, it was amazingly inspirational. That's an understatement. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank all the people that are watching us now on YouTube Live. I want to thank everybody at Dash Radio for giving me the opportunity to meet this young man and participate in his story. We appreciate you all. Thanks again. Zoe Williams, we out.
ZoWhat Radio, where mindfulness, music, and meaningful conversation merge.